සඳුදා නුගසෙවන වැඩසටහන ඔබ සමග අද සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නේ තාමත්ම කීර්තිමත්ම ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයෙක්. ඔහු බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය රාජ්‍ය පවුලත් එක්ක වැඩ කරලා තියෙනවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ සංස්කෘතිය මුළු ලෝකෙටම එලි දක්වලා තියෙනවා. හැබැයි ඔහුගේ නම ඔබ තාම එච්චර දන්නේ නැතුව ඇති. හැබැයි ඊ타මත්ම වටිනා පුද්ගලෙක් දැන හඳුනා ගන්න. ඉතින් අපි අද හඳුනලා දෙන්න. ඒ තමයි Ishan Gunasekara. Good morning to you.
Morning, Siobhan.
So Ishan, I see you in Sri Lanka quite often. But when I speak to you, I hear the accent of a Brit. So are you a Brit who is living in Sri Lanka, or are you a Sri Lankan living in London?
Well, actually, I'm a Sri Lankan. I was brought up as a Sri Lankan, and I'm fully Sri Lankan. I live in London, but I spend a lot of time in Sri Lanka, and I hope to spend a lot more time in Sri Lanka.
So Ishan, you're a British Sri Lankan. How has that dual identity shaped the way you capture Sri Lanka through your lens?
Well, I think that coming from, living abroad, I think gave me a slightly different perspective of Sri Lanka. So I saw it in slightly different eyes, not being brought up here. I was fascinated by everything Sri Lankan. So it was a voyage of discovery for me to go out there, travel Sri Lanka and discover everything that I wanted to know.
Ishan, so what drew you to first pick up the lens, and when did you realize it was going to be more than just a hobby for you?
Well, I used to study photography in a library from about 8 years old. So I used to love looking at photographic books. So I understood the physics, understood the chemistry, and I love the technical side of photography. So I learned at a very early age, and I just knew that this is something that I wanted to be part of, to capture time. Photography.
මම පටන් ගද්දි කිව්වනේ ඊශාන් ගුණසේකර කියන නම ගොඩක් අය දන්නේ නැතුව ඇති. දැන් මේ අපි අහපු ප්‍රශ්න දෙක තුනෙන් ඕගොල්ලන්ට අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්නේ නැති ඡායාරූපකරණය කොහොමද එයා පටන් ගත්තේ? ඒකේ වෙනම ඇන්ගල් එකට යන්න පුළුවන් උනේ කොහොමද කියන එක තමයි අපි ওই ප්‍රශ්න දෙක තුනෙන් අඳුරගත්තේ. ඊටාත්ම කීර්තිමත් ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයෙක්. Now we've seen many travel guides. I mean, if you go to a meeting, you see one in the coffee table, one out of 5 meetings, I would say. What makes the elite guide to Sri Lanka a phenomenal and a unique travel guide like people have never seen before?
Well, I think many of the travel guides that I've read, you can see that the people have been employed to write, but they haven't necessarily visited those sites. So consequently, they miss the essence of what those places are about. I have studied deeply a lot of these places and the history and the culture, and put that together, and hopefully have seen it in its entirety.
One thing I always think is Sri Lanka is known to the entire world in its cliches, the beaches, the tea, and now the elephants as well. But you try to portray a different side of Sri Lanka. What do you try to portray?
I have seen many of the guides, and obviously it's important to put in the usual travel sites like Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, Sigiriya, so on and so forth. But there is so much more to Sri Lanka. You know, there's so much more, and Sri Lanka has opened up totally, and because the tourists are out there exploring it, they're advertising so much more of Sri Lanka and discovering so much more. To me, one of the most beautiful areas of Sri Lanka is Jaffna and the Northern Peninsula, and I've spent time out there discovering those areas, and ultimately you can even find a patch of beach completely for yourself. It's that good.
Absolutely. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට පැමිණෙන සංචාරකයන් හැම වෙලේම යන්නේ සීගිරියට වේවා, දඹුල්ලට වේවා, බීච් වලට වේවා ඕවා තමයි කරන්නේ. නමුත් ඒෂාන් ඔහුගේ travel guide books වලින් කියනවා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ යන්න පුළුවන්, කියන්නේ සංස්කෘතිය අත්හදා බලන්න පුළුවන් තැන්. අපි වැඩි සංචාරකයන්ව ගෙනියන්නේ නැති තැන් ගැන කතා කරලා තිනවා. ඕක තමයි ඒෂාන් දැන් අපිත් එක්ක කිව්වේ. සංචාරකයන් ලංකාවට ආවම ලංකාවේ සංචාරක කර්මාන්තය නගා සිටවන්න නම් ඔවුන්ට අපි දැන් හැමෝම පෙන්වන දේවල්ට අමතරව දෙයක් පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ, ලබා දෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා. Now photography is beyond just photographs and just capturing. It's also storytelling. How do you balance the authenticity of a story and the aesthetic aspect of a picture? How do you strike a balance there?
Well, I think, it's so important. We have a history going back over 2,500 years, and it's entrenched in Buddhism. So I think we really need to explain the onset of Buddhism and how Buddhism affects everyday lives, and really how our whole country has developed with that thread of Buddhism going through it. So it's vital part of who we are and the character of Sri Lanka.
Now you've written a book, you're going to make a film as well. Would you say you're a photographer turned author or an author turned photographer turned filmmaker? Do you have any idea of doing a documentary or even a movie?
Well, actually, yeah, we're in the process of making a movie. Sri Lanka has a fascinating history, and we really need to document that and show the world what Sri Lanka is. And Sri Lanka has been used in many movies, but not as Sri Lanka per se. They're pretending to be India, like in Indiana Jones, or Pakistan, or Bangladesh, and many films have been shot here, including Gandhi. What we want to do is use Sri Lanka as the location and showcase everything best about Sri Lanka. So my locations are Yapahawa, Pidurangala, Sigiriya, Dambula Temple, Kandy, and the best, really, cinematically, the best we have in Sri Lanka, and showcase how beautiful Sri Lanka is. But my movie is really about the history and culture, so it starts off even 2,500 years ago, and it shows the history and culture of Sri Lanka. It's all within, it's a fictional thriller based in Sri Lanka during the last days of the war, and we're really hoping to make it in the next year or so.
Oh, that's fantastic. ඡායාරූපකරණය කියන්නේ දැන් ජංගම දුර්කථනයක් තියෙන ඔබට මට උනත් ලේසියෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක්. නමුත් ඡායාරූපකරණය කියන එකෙන් කතාවක් කියන්න පුළුවන් වෙන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ ස්ටෝරි ටෙලිං කියන එක කරන්න හැමෝටම බෑ. ස්ටෝරි ටෙලිං ඔහුගේ ඡායාරූපකරණයෙන් උත් ඔහු කරනවා, ලිවීමෙන් උත් කරනවා. දැන් චිත්‍රපටි වලින් උත් කරන්න යනවා. ඒ තමයි ඊශාන් ගුණසේකර. Now photography is beyond just photographs and just capturing. It's also storytelling. How do you balance the authenticity of a story and the aesthetic aspect of a picture? How do you strike a balance there?
Well, Sri Lanka, you can point a camera anywhere, and people do. You've got your iPhones and you just point a camera and you can take a really beautiful photograph. In photography, we say it's making a photograph, not taking a photograph. Okay, so very often, I mean, I have libraries of tens of thousands of photographs, but there's only 100 or 200 that I can say are brilliant. So it's very rare that you get something quite unique. And when we do, we leave it in its bare state. We don't touch it. We won't use Photoshop or anything like that. So it's purely raw and as it should be.
Would you say you're a photographer who became an author, or an author who uses photography to tell a story?
I didn't realize I could write, to be honest. I knew I was a photographer, but I felt I was an artist. And I worked with some amazing professionals like Chandna Vijayawardena and others. And then I started writing for them and doing some various pieces. And then I acquired the talent, and I felt that, when people read my work, they thought it was actually quite good. So then I felt more confident in going about and writing more. So, and I've enjoyed it. So, it's very simple what I do, but then people like what I do, so I'm happy.
Now, when you were talking about your movie, I could actually picture you being a lead role in that movie. Now, we've seen the writer in Ishan Gunasekara, we've seen the photographer. Are we going to see the actor in Ishan Gunasekara?
No, I don't think so. I'll leave that to the professionals. We're looking at bringing 3 famous actors from abroad who have shown interest already from either USA or UK, and then we'll have literally 100 actors or more from Sri Lanka. And I know that we've got immense talent in Sri Lanka, and we want to showcase really what they can do. And incidentally, I know that this will be a stunning film, and we'll be presenting it to film festivals and others, and hopefully we'll be able to pick up some awards for it as well.
අපි කිව්වා ඒෂාන් කියන්නේ බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය රාජකීය පවුලත් එක්ක එකට ඇවිද්ද පුද්ගලෙක් කියලා. ඔහු බ්‍රිතාන්‍ය රාජකීය පවුලත් එක්ක ලංකාවෙත් ඇවිදලා තියෙනවා. 1998 ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ නිදහස ලැබලා අවුරුදු 50ක් පිරෙන ඒ වර්ෂයේදී ඒ සැමරුමට ලංකාවට ආවේ චාල්ස් කුමාරයා. දැන් චාල්ස් කියන රජුරු ඒ කාලේ චාල්ස් කුමාරයා. ඔහු ලංකාවට ආවම කැලණි විහාරය බලන්න ගියා. ඔහු ඒ ආපු සංචාරේ ඔහුගේ ඡායාරූපකරණය කොහොම කරේ? මේ අපිත් එක්ක ඉන්න ඒෂාන් තමයි. කැලණි රජමහා විහාරය අපි දැකලා තියෙනවා. ගොඩක් තැන්වල පත්තරවල හිටන් දැකපු පින්තූරයක් තියෙනවා. චාල්ස් කුමාරයා එහි තියෙන බිතුසිතුවම් දිහා බලාගෙන ඉන්න පින්තූරයක්. ඒ පින්තූරය ගත්තෙත් මේ අපේ ඉන්න ඒෂාන් තමයි. Ishan, I hear you are notorious for capturing holes in the socks of royalty. What is the story behind that?
Well, for the 50th anniversary of independence of Sri Lanka, I accompanied Prince Charles on his visit. and we were at Kalinir Temple. And I probably think that Prince Charles didn't realize at the time he'd have to remove his shoes. And so what happened was once he removed his shoes, we realized he had a hole in his sock. Now, I was absolutely really close to Prince Charles, and I was photographing him, and he saw me photograph the holes in his shoes, and he looked up at me. But I think that's quite fun, actually. It just goes to show that he believes in recycling.
1998 චාල්ස් කුමාරයා ලංකාවට පැමිණිච්ච වෙලාවේ චාරූපකරණයේ නියැලී හිටපු අපේ ඊෂාන් අස්සන කතාවක් කිව්වා. කැලණි විහාරයට ගිහිල්ලා ඉවරලා ඒ වෙලාවේ චාල්ස් කුමාරයා තමන්ගේ සපත්තු ගැලෙව්වා. සපත්තු ගලවද්දී අපිටත් වෙන දෙයක් තමයි මේස් එකේ හිලක් තිබිලා. ඉතින් ඒකත් ඇත්තටම ෂොට් එකට වැදිලා. ඉතින් ඒක ගැන ඉතාමත්ම හාස්‍ය කතාවක් තමයි ඊෂාන් කිව්වේ. ඉතින් චාල්ස් කුමාරයාත් ඒක ගැන hina වෙලා විහිළුවක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් එච්චර චාල්ස් කුමාරයත් එක්ක ළඟින් වැඩ කරපු එක්කෙනෙක් තමයි මට මෙහා එහා පැත්තේ ඉඳගෙන ඉන්නේ අද. Now throughout this interview we've spoken about Sri Lanka promoting the cliches always, but your travel books give a different aspect to it, a different side. What do first time travelers to Sri Lanka usually tend to overlook?
Well, I'm living in Velavatta at the moment, and my passion is walking down the street. I mean, Velavatta is the most vibrant, colourful place you could possibly visit. If I walk down there, there's usually a little festival, and it's just full of colour and sights and sounds and smells and whatever. I would encourage people to walk. Don't take cars. Walk down the street and discover these little kades and little roads, and walk down those places and see life as it is. And then you get a real idea about what Sri Lanka and who Sri Lankans are. That is my passion, just walking down the street.
Now, Ishan, Sri Lanka has been through an economic crisis as well, and the tourism industry played a huge role in Sri Lanka's resurgence. Tourism is big in Sri Lanka. What role do you think books like your travel book and your upcoming movies are going to play in promoting Sri Lankan tourism to the rest of the world?
Well, first of all, some people have said to me, is it necessary to produce books? Everything's online, everything's there. But that's very ephemeral, because if you go on, you can look up anything you want to on Sri Lanka, but it's fleeting. You look at it and that's it. Whereas a book will last forever, and it will always be on your bookshelf. I think it's a wonderful tool, and it's a wonderful gift. What it will also do, what I want to encourage is an educated traveller, because what we're trying to do is really get people to fully understand about Sri Lanka and how important Buddhism is and so on and so forth. So it's really important that we have very educated people who are doing that. And I think that will certainly help the economy, because the idea is that we have a better class of a customer to Sri Lanka client who uses the high-end hotels and experiences the best of Sri Lanka. We have an amazing product in Sri Lanka, and we just have to get it out there and let people know about it, and that's my job.
Now, off air we spoke about Sri Lanka having a whole heap of photographers who are extremely talented. What advice do you have for these young upcoming photographers in honing their skills and presenting themselves to the rest of the world?
Well, I've seen many a photographer in Sri Lanka, and they are quite fantastic. We have got immense talents in all areas. We've got immense talent. I would say go out there and expose yourself. Don't stay there. Come back to Sri Lanka. We need you, because you are brilliant. And actually, I think many of them don't realise how good they are. And certainly would stand up on an international stage. I think that today's world, there's more chance of them having that exposure, certainly, and it's wonderful for them to have it. But we certainly have the talent. They have the talent, and I know that they'll do really well.
All right. Looking ahead, do you see yourself working on another project, perhaps another book, a film, or even documenting in a different country?
I love Sri Lanka. My work is with Sri Lanka. I would be more happy just to be here and work here. I think that if I can make this film and it's a success, I'm hoping to make a trilogy. So there'll be 3 parts to this movie, if you like, or and so we can look at different aspects of Sri Lanka and hopefully expose those areas and give exposure to different areas and understandings of Sri Lanka. Well, I think quite simply, as a Sri Lanka, I'm an ambassador of Sri Lanka. And I think we all are as Sri Lankans, and I think it's really important that we go out and show the best sides of Sri Lanka and talk about the wonderful people that we have. We have a mixed culture of people, and we're all brothers and sisters on this island, and it's a really wonderful mix that makes Sri Lanka what it is, this beautiful, beautiful island that everybody should come and visit.
Ishan, thank you very much for sparing a little bit of your time to join the national television station.
Thank you.
And to be here, and especially for speaking to our Sri Lankans as well, your brothers and sisters here who are rooting and cheering on for you every step of the way. We hope that this movie that you are about to release will be in our cinemas very soon, and we can't wait for that as well. Ishan Gunasekara අපිත් එක්ක අද ඇත්තටම මොහොතක් ගත කරා ලංකාවේ ඉන්න පොඩි කාලය ඇතුළත ස්වල්ප මොහොතකට ජාතික රූපවාහිනියට ඇවිල්ලා ඔබවත් ආමන්ත්‍රණය කළා ඔහු ගොඩක් මහන්සිලා වැඩ කරන ශ්‍රී ලාංකික ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් ඇත්තටම කිව්වොත් චිත්‍රපටයකුත් එලි දක්වන්න කටයුතු යොදලා තියෙනවා. ඒ ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ ඔබ හා මා වෙනුවෙන්. ශ්‍රී ලංකාව කියන නම මුළු ලෝකෙටම ගෙනියන්න. ඉතින් අපි ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා ඊශාන් ගුණසේකර අද අපත් එක්ක ඇත්තටම ඔබගේ උදෑසන ගත කළා ජාතික රූපවාහිනියයි අපේ ප්‍රේක්ෂකීන්ව තාමත්ම සතුටුදායක ලෙස තම ලස්සන තැනකට අරන් ගියට බොහොම ස්තුතියි.
එමනම් ඉතින් ඔන්න සඳුදා නුගසෙවන වැඩසටහනේ අදට අපේ සමුගන්න සූදානම් වන්නේ සමුගන්න මත්තෙන් බොහොම විශේෂ පණිවිඩයක් තියෙනවා මතක් කරන්න තමයි මිනුවන්කුඩ ජනාධිපති විද්‍යාලයේ රූනද රසවින්දන ගී ප්‍රසංගය පිළිබඳව විද්‍යාලයේ සිසු දරු දැරියන්ගේ සාරධර්ම හා ගුණාත්මක වර්ධනය තරගකාරී අධ්‍යාපන රටාවෙන් මිදී ගීයක නිවැරදි රසවින්දනය කොහොමද සිද්ධ කරන්න කියන කාරණාව පිළිබඳව කතා බහ කරන්නට ඔන්න මිනුවන්කුඩ ජනාධිපති විද්‍යාලයෙන් බිහි වූ කලාශිල්පීන් රසක් සහභාගී වන්න සූදානම්ෙන් ඉන්නවා. රූනද සංගීත රසවින්දන වැඩසටහනට හරියටම 2025 සැප්තැම්බර් 23 ගැන හෙට දවසේදී පෙරවරු 8:30ට තමයි විද්‍යාලීය ප්‍රධාන ශාලාවේදී පැවැත්වෙන්නේ. ඒ පණිවිඩයත් අපි ඔබට කියන ගමන්ම සමුගෙන යන්නට සූදානම් වෙනවාද සඳුදා නුගසෙවන වැඩසටහනින්. ජීවිතයේ මේ ගෙවෙන කාලය සෞන්දර්යය තුල ඔබට ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් නම් සාහිත්‍ය තුල ඔබට ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඔබේ ජීවිතේ බොහොම ලස්සන වේවි. ගෙවෙන්නේ සාහිත්‍ය මාසය. හැමදාමත් සාහිත්‍ය රසය ඔබේ ජීවිතයට එකතු කරගන්න ඒ තුලින් සුන්දර මිනිසෙකු බිහි වෙනවා. එමනම් මේ අලුත් සතිය බොහොම සාර්ථක සතියක් වේවා කියන ප්‍රාර්ථනාවත් එක්ක සඳුදා නුගසෙවන වැඩසටහනෙන් සමුගන්නා ඔබ සැමට ආයුබෝවන් කියමින්